for our newsletter and visit our website. So appreciate having this opportunity to meet with most of you for Business Week, and take it away, Emily.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Supervisor. I know you've probably got a busy day. If you stay with us, please do. If you have to jump off, please go do all the good work you do in the county for us. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Bye.
So today, like I said, this is our kickoff workshop, and it is Pathways to Procurement, Navigating Agency Contracts for Small Businesses. And today we have three agencies with us. We are represented by the City of San Leandro, by the County of Alameda, and by the Port of Oakland. And we're happy to have all three of these agencies here with us. They are going to take you through their processes, answer some questions, and just really give you a real solid understanding of how to get started in procurement with their agencies. So with that, I'm going to ask each of these folks to introduce themselves. And also, if you could share with us the amount of procurement dollars your agency manages or spends annually. And also the kind of goods or services your agency typically procures, and one small thing businesses might not realize about working with your agency. So just kind of all of that, just a little bit. I'll start with you, Des.
All right. Well, I am like you guys. I'm small and mighty, or the city of San Leandro is, I guess I should say. We're actually fairly small in terms of the amount of procurement that we're able to do, but we're definitely there to be of assistance to you. I'm Des Woodworth. I'm in the economic development team at the city of San Leandro. My colleague Sally Perez would actually probably be the best contact for real specific information about the procurement process, and I will include her contact information in the chat. Can I use the chat function, Emily?
I believe you
Okay.
can.
Then I will make that attempt so you guys can connect up with both me and her if you have any questions. Our total budget for services and supplies is about $17 million annually. Without public safety, so that gives you a sense about the scale of things. We basically buy pretty much anything, from construction to infrastructure, paper, paper clips, various types of equipment. So there's a wide range of services and products that we purchase through small businesses like your own. I guess in terms of things that you may not know, San Leandro celebrated its 150th years as a city just this past year, a little older than the chamber, which did a whole 100 years. So pretty remarkable how much longevity there is. The other part is I would just say that in terms of doing business with the city and frankly any public agency, it's really important to understand that when you are submitting your bid, you need to account for things like insurance and wages, if there are prevailing wages or something along those lines. Think about that in advance because you want to submit a bid that will actually make you a profit instead of something that at the end of it you're thinking, this was so costly. So I encourage you to think about that. Look at the contractor agreement when it shows up.
So I'll move on to the County of Alameda. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Deetra Dillon, and I'm the Procurement Administrator for Alameda County General Services Agency. And my partner in crime here, Ariana Urania, is going to explain a little bit about our process and what we do. Ariana, take it away.
Good afternoon. So I'm also with Deetra's department. So it's a General Services Agency, and we are the procurement department. So our agency manages about $516 million annually for procurements of goods and services. So this doesn't include construction. And then we purchase products, so anything from office supplies to consulting services. We also do professional services. We do architectural engineering procurements. So there's a variety of things that we do procurements for. And one thing I would just like to let everybody know is that there is a lot of services that the county provides to residents that isn't necessarily provided by county employees. We procure these services or these goods that we provide. And that's something I never knew. I just thought, oh, the county hires all these people and we, provide these services for small businesses or, for residents. But in reality, procurement is run. And so that's something I wanted to point out.
Thank you. And I'll move on to the Port of Oakland.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Wilson, the Contract Compliance Supervisor here at the Port of Oakland. The Port of Oakland is an amazing entity. The big picture is the way I like to describe it. The Port of Oakland is a landlord. We are responsible for the property from the seaport to the airport and along the waterfront. And what do landlords do or property owners do? They maintain and they develop their infrastructure and their buildings. And like the County of Alameda, we do not have the staff to do that. So we contract out those services. And so when we think about the total dollar of spend, there are total dollars that the port directly spends, and then there are the dollars that its tenants spend. And the port is roughly 400 million a year. But when you factor in what the tenants are also spending, it's much more than that. And what's great as a landlord is that we have great relationships with our tenants, and it gives small businesses in the area the opportunity to connect with those tenants to serve them as well. So that was what we were saying, right?
Yes.
All right. Got it.
Yes, thank you so much. So I've prepared some questions, and some of these questions each of you will answer, and then some I'll just direct to one of you. And they are really intended to just give a basic understanding of this. A lot of our small businesses are just starting to scratch the surface. So of just what is procurement, how does it work? So some of these questions, if you've answered them before, great. They might be very simple in the answers. I'm not really sure, but I just wanted to give our attendees just a really basic understanding of how procurement works. So I'm going to start with my first question, which is, how do your agencies define small businesses? Is it based on number of employees, annual receipts, or both? And I will have each of you answer that, please. Des, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. My answer is actually really simple in that we don't have a formal statement about what small businesses are. We do have programs that are aimed at addressing local businesses, which often, given the how many small businesses there are, most of our local businesses are going to be small. So we have programs that are aimed at local rather than at small. Depending on what level of government you're working in. So if you're working with the state government, for instance, they have a small business certification. And then obviously the SBA has its own definitions about how big small is, which I got to say, 500 employees does not sound small to me, but hey, they got to run their own organization.
Great. And County of Alameda?
Yeah, so as a supervisor mentioned on the beginning of the call, the County of Alameda has a small local emerging business program, which you'll hear about it using the acronym SLEB. So through this program, it's for local businesses that are within Alameda County. And so either you register as a small or a local. So it would be maybe you start off as an emerging business, and then you're a small business. But the Auditor Controller's Office is the one that does the certification for this program. And they use the U.S. Small Business Administration definition for small business. And then it's based on the NICS code, which stands for North American Industry Classification System. Mm-hmm. So it is based on the number of employees and also annual gross receipts, but it is very dependent on the industry code. So it's dependent on your industry.
And what about the Port of Oakland?
So the Port of Oakland operates a couple of different programs. One that we actually certify for, and that's our local business certification. And the Port of Oakland has what's called a local impact area, which are 4 cities: Alameda, Emeryville, Oakland, and San Leandro. So that's the local impact area, or the LIA. And then we have what is called the local business area, which is Alameda County and Contra Costa County. So the port certifies businesses as local, whether they are local business area businesses in Alameda or Contra Costa County, or they are local impact area businesses. Again, sorry about that, Alameda, Emeryville, San Leandro, and Oakland. Now, we also do a small and a very small certification. Those certifications are only able to be conferred upon businesses that are located in the local impact area. So to be considered small or very small, a business must be located in one of the 4 cities in the local impact area. Small is 36 million average gross receipts over the past 3 years, and very small is 5 million average gross receipts over the past 3 years. And so that's what the Port of Oakland does as its own certification. But because we also operate the airport, we are subject to the federal DBE program, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, which is, again, a federal program. And it is, there are certification agencies throughout the state of California that use the same criteria, federal criteria. And the criteria are, 51% owned by a socially and economically disadvantaged individual, and a personal net worth not to exceed a little over 2 million. And that does not include your personal residence or equity in the business. So that's the DBE certification. And then there is a gross receipts cap of 31 something million that you cannot exceed. And then there's what's called the FAA DBE, which uses the U.S. Small Business Administration size standard for its gross caps for average 3 years. So yeah, there are tons of certifications floating around, including, like Des mentioned, the State of California Department of General Services small business certification, which is extremely helpful to have as well, because those certifications kind of put a business on the radar of agencies that don't do their own certification, but use the State of California certification. And all of these certifications are essentially to kind of put you on the radar for staff who are looking for businesses, as well as for larger firms that may want a partner who is a certified small business.
Wow. Yeah. So there it's kind of, well, basically SBA standards. Then of course there's some federal standards that you use. The city is mainly looking at the local inclusion policy. Is that right? So it is kind of, every agency is a little bit different. So you certainly have to drill down and see where you qualify. That is for sure. So thank you for that. I know this is always such a fascinating workshop. I feel like I learn something new every single time I've done it, because it's so much information to hang on to. So here's my next question. We, as the County of Alameda alluded to, says procurement comes in many forms: people, products, services, all sorts. So not everything maybe is a big formal bid. So can you break down the different levels of purchasing your agency does, and maybe allude to more of that, Ariana, about what you meant by also procuring, I guess it's services through people, and how they're defined by dollar amounts?
Yeah. So basically our procurement what determines what path or what policies departments have to abide to is the dollar amount. So for purchases that are up to $3,000, one quote is required by the department, and then the departments are to use our small local emerging business database to look for these small businesses. And if there's anything you take away from this call, is to please register and get certified for that small local emerging business program, because that is where departments will then use to search for local businesses, because they are required to first go to emerging and small businesses to get a quote from them. And then they would move on if there is no smaller local business that could provide those goods or services. And then from there up to, so from $25,000 up to $100,000, then the requirement is 2 or preferably 3 quotes. And so again, departments use that sub database to look up 2 vendors that could provide these goods or services, and they'll reach out to get a quote. Now for services over 100,000, that's when our department runs the formal competitive bid process. And for this is when you would have to submit a bid. So you would submit a bid, and we post all our opportunities on our current contracting opportunities webpage that I think they'll be given a link to.
Mhm.
And so there you'll see what bids we have out, and each one will tell you, what are the minimum requirements that you need to meet? What certifications do you need to submit? What is your cost for whatever it is, right? So it's very important to read through that, make sure you have everything that you need to submit. And then we're also available to help you navigate through that process, because as a small business owner, right, you might not have like a separate department where all they do is submit bids. So we are here to help small businesses do that. We have a weekly vendor outreach every Wednesday that is just to help businesses navigate through our process, because it's a lot. There's a lot to read, there's a lot to be familiar with, but we're here to help you navigate that. And so that's why every Wednesday we hold these outreach calls. It's on Teams, and you could log in, just ask questions. Maybe you need help finding a certain, like if you wanted to certify to become a smaller local business, where do you start? So yeah, I think that was the gist of it.
Yeah, thank you so much. What about the city and the port? Do you all have a similar process? Like she was saying, for 3,000, they get 1 quote. For larger, more quote. Is that something similar that you all do as well?
Yeah, they're very similar. The numbers are a little different. We have a couple of different avenues that we have available to us. So for those people who are just going to do a quick purchase, they can actually use what's called a Cal card, which is a procurement credit card or a debit card, and they basically can purchase stuff directly from businesses in the area or elsewhere, or online perhaps. For small purchases, it's pretty informal there. The objective is to provide or to find a provider that gives you a competitive price, but we don't have a set number of businesses that have to be contacted. So it really depends on the circumstance. So the small threshold is under $6,000 for equipment and supplies, that kind of stuff. In that same area, we also have a competitive bid, which is between 60,000 and 200,000, and then for a formal bid, which will go to council and they'll review it, it's over 200,000. So there is the intent behind that is to have things be ratchet up in terms of how much visibility they need, and to make sure that the city is spending its money wisely and in a competitive fashion. On consultants, the pricing is a little different. So for small agreements of less than 5,000, they can do a letter agreement. A formal consulting agreement is between 5,000 and 100,000, and that will have some additional information about the local preference policies and the goals that are set there. And then again, over $100,000 will go to council, and they'll provide that review.
Right.
Yeah, and the Port of Oakland is similar in that for goods and general services and public works projects, if it's less than or equal to $10,000, you can just go directly to one firm and ask for it. If it's between 10 and 50,000, you need three informal quotes. And if it's over 50,000, then you have to go through a formal bid. For professional services, the threshold to just go directly to one firm is 50,000. And between 50 and 150, you need three quotes. And anything over 150 requires a formal RFP or RFQ. So getting on the vendor list, so becoming a registered vendor with the Port of Oakland, which is essentially just filling out a little federal tax form and identifying the areas that you're able to provide services for. Getting on that vendor list is very helpful because what will happen is people will go to the purchasing department and say, hey, look, I need X. And they'll say, well, here's all of our registered vendors. You can go to them and ask for a quote. So, yeah, becoming a registered vendor is very helpful. Now, being a registered vendor and being certified as small are two different things. And that's one of the things that people sometimes get tripped up on is like, oh, well, I got certified. Why isn't anybody calling me? Well, certification is different from the vendor list, but there's no guarantee either way, being certified or being on the vendor list. You still kind of have to proactively pursue work, but that's something else we'll talk about on how to do that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That gives a clear understanding kind of how this works. So thank you for that. And I want to ask each of you, from your experience, because we're talking about pretty small businesses that are with us today. So from your experience, what types of industries or services tend to do well within your agencies that get procured most often? If you could just give us just an idea, because I know, like you said, you've got bigger procurement needs like infrastructure and construction and whatnot, but even just, where the office supplies, the janitorial services or anything like that, is there something specific that comes to mind when you think small businesses? What has the most success getting procured through your agencies?
I could go first on this one. So since the county is so diverse, the needs change, from time to time. We also set our contract terms to be a max of 5 years. So what that means is every 5 years we go out to bid. So that also allows for more competition, right? So each time everybody gets a chance to bid or submit their bid again. Now I don't have like a specific industry or service to name, but businesses that do certify to become certified small, local, emerging businesses do tend to do better than those that don't certify, because as I mentioned, the county is so huge that we have that database, and departments use that database to then do their research and reach out to those small businesses. So being certified, I think, is key. And also, don't be discouraged, because there are these larger formal procurements we run. So for services over 100,000, right? And you might not be able to provide everything for those larger contracts, but you could subcontract with a bidder that maybe is going to submit a bid, but you're going to provide maybe a portion or provide indirect services to the business. So there are ways that these smaller companies could be a part of that larger contract. And there is a requirement. So for those formal bid processes over 100,000, there is a requirement for vendors to subcontract with these small businesses. So yeah.
Thank you.
I'll slip in here. I guess in terms of the businesses I've seen be most successful, generally it's where there's a a low cost of entry. So if you're getting started and you're in an industry where you have to go out and buy a whole lot of equipment, that's tougher than if you just call up and say, I can do that. And you have the tools on your computer or something along those lines. So generally, I would say that that's an easier road to plow, so to speak, as a small business. The other thing is that the federal certifications, we've been talking about some of the certifications, where federal funds are available, those certifications can be a big help. And like the other speakers have mentioned, there are certifications which are that they have that are specific to their uses as well. And so having those certifications can make a big difference in terms of being able to get access to and information about projects that you might not otherwise be eligible for or have the competitive advantage.
It looks like we got a question in the chat. I need help with being certified as a minority training development and multimedia provider. So where would something like that fit in with your agencies? What would you advise this person?
I would say get certified. Just get certified with the County of Alameda, get certified with the Port of Oakland, get certified with the state of California, get certified everywhere. Everywhere that you would want to hold a contract, get certified with those entities if they certify businesses. And if they don't, find out what certifications they recognize. So, like the Peralta Community Colleges, they do not certify, and the Oakland Unified School District does not certify. However, they recognize different certifications, including the Port of Oakland. So, it's important to get certified with those different places, and it's not impossible. The great thing is all the certification entities ask for the same documents. So if you have all of your documents scanned for your certification application, you can send it off to multiple places. And so it makes it a little bit easier because all of the documents are in one place and you're just uploading documents and to different databases. So it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe you use some AI to automatically generate some sort of application or something. I don't know. But maybe another way is just have all the documents together and upload them. The other thing in terms of looking at opportunities, some entities may give an opportunity for you to showcase what you can do. Sending a capability statement is very helpful to different, but knowing who to send it to in the organization. And we get not inundated, but we do get peppered with emails with capability statements. Sometimes it's better to just pick up the phone and introduce yourself and your business and say, hey, look, this is what I can do. And this is what I can do for you. This is how I can add value. So those are the folks who tend to get heard if they know who to go to and they pick up the phone. Emails sometimes kind of fall through the cracks, but picking up the phone and introducing your business is very helpful.
Well, that's really nice to hear, Kimberly, because I think a lot of people get really tripped up on, online submissions of things. We do it, with employment and everything. So I think people are automatically think it's email all the time or it's one of the online systems all the time. So that's very helpful to hear that. I have a question about tracking. How would somebody track upcoming contracting opportunities with your agencies? Is there a place on your website? Do you post that? I don't know how small businesses would hear of these opportunities. So help us understand that.
I know that the city of San Leandro and many other municipalities basically will publish, particularly for those formal bids, an upcoming opportunity. And what they're doing is they're soliciting bids for a particular project or activity. And in our case, what we do is we post it to a website. That website also incorporates a notification system so that if you want a text or an email sent to you to notify you about an upcoming opportunity based on your NAICS code, which Ariana mentioned earlier, or other designation, it will send you that information. So that's a real advantage in the modern world, so to speak, because it used to be you had to go to the library and look through paper after paper trying to find notices and that sort of stuff. I know that there are also groups that will assemble a whole lot of opportunities for people who are looking for it. The one caution there is that in some cases the municipalities have paid for the privilege of posting their things there, but then the third party poster will also ask you to pay for the privilege of having access to that. So you may be able to avoid having to pay the third party by finding a municipality that belongs to that particular service. From my previous experience, I know of an organization called Bid and Go, which I'll post in the chat so that you can see, that that's an option. And I'll also post the link to mine, which looks like my colleagues on the other speakers have already got theirs up, so mine will be last. But anyway, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. So Ariana, you want to tell us a little bit about how to track with the county?
Yeah, so same as Des was mentioning, we do post current contracting opportunities on our website. I added the link in the chat. We also are in the middle of transitioning to OpenGov, which is like a bid portal that many other cities, public entities use. So I would encourage businesses to register for that because you will not only see our opportunities on there, you'll see other public agencies that have that system as well. And then on our website through the link I just sent, there's also a way to subscribe to our eGov newsletter. And so anytime that something is posted on this website, you'll get an email. And it is per category. So when you register, depending on what category, if it's like goods or services versus construction, that's how it'll filter what posting emails you'll get a notification for.
Thank you.
One of the things that I would also add is that if you look at different public agencies, most of them will have a link that says doing business. So just go to any government agency's doing business site, and you should be able to get their opportunities that are on the street. Some agencies are really good because what they'll do is they will say, this is what we project in the future. When I worked at Muni in San Francisco, we had that kind of future looking contract list that we published. What I've put in the chat is Bart's kind of procurement page because I think theirs is really good. And they give a variety of opportunities, but also I put in ABAG, Association of Bay Area Governments. Now, this link is actually for jobs, but what's great about it is that it gives by county the cities, the governments. And so you can click through those and look at doing business with, because the reality is all of us who work in the government, we want businesses, small businesses, to be successful with us as well as other localities, because we won't be able to keep you continually in contract. But if after you work with us or while you're working with us, there's an overlap with San Leandro, and then there's an overlap with the County of Alameda, then that's great, because then your company is building its capacity. And, it's just better. It's just better. It's better for all of us to have as many, to have our small businesses, or you small businesses that we consider our family, to have you consistently working or contracting with various government agencies, because the more you do, the more you know, the more efficient it becomes, and the easier it is for you to work with us, and you're willing to deal with our paperwork.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, a couple of things. You had mentioned picking up the phone and giving a call. Is that call being made to the procurement departments? Is that where somebody would start
Well,
to?
maybe. And sometimes where, especially if a person has like a niche service, go to the head of whatever department that would use that service, right? A lot of places have the departments listed for their agency. For the city of San Leandro, you could go to the website and see all the different departments. If you have in your mind, like, oh, I have a drone and I like to do videos for folks. Oh, okay. Well, who in government would want to use that? Okay, so that's construction. They want to do time lapse. They want to do, maybe some economic development folks want to do it. Some community engagement folks want to use your drone. Fire, police, all of them want to use drones. Just knowing who might be the client within government and going to those folks, going to the leadership of or whomever, whatever name you can find in that department is very helpful. Another tip and trick that I like to give is to do a public records request and ask for all contracts within a certain time period that use whatever your service is, so that you can see who's gotten that contract. Ask for the contract and the solicitation, the RFP, request for proposal. And that way you can see what was being requested, how long that contract may be in effect, and then you can prepare and get a sense of how to be competitive when that opportunity reveals itself again.
Okay, well, thank you for that. And then also, one question you were talking about, get your paperwork in order. Do you all know what is asked when they're submitting paperwork? Is there some kind of a basic understanding what paperwork needs to be submitted? So is it proof of business license? What do you have an understanding of what they might be asking for? No. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it really depends on what the project is. And, particularly for the formal ones, it's actually laid out very clearly in the document.
Okay.
It'll say you need this, you need this, you need this. And one of the, Kim was talking about the tips and tricks. It's really important, and it may be a challenge for some people. You want to go through that carefully and make sure that you're addressing all of the questions, because at the end of the day, if you submit something that doesn't have all of the questions answered, you can be deemed as unresponsive. You spent hours creating this thing, and if you don't answer all the questions, they will just say, I'm sorry, this one doesn't work out. And they may not even notify you about it. You may not know why it is. So definitely encourage people to look carefully at what it is sent to them and make sure that they go through and mark with ink pen all of the things that they've submitted, because it really can make a big difference in terms of your success in actually being effective in competing for these opportunities.
Thank you.
Just piggybacking off of that, for formal solicitations, we have a bid packet at the end of what is the request for proposal or request for quotation. And so at the end is sort of this packet that vendors are supposed to look through. We try to do check marks. We, tell you, please put your information here, please submit a copy here. So we try to make it where if you just follow the instructions, provide what you need, and you just move on to the next page, that it'll be a complete bid. There is times when maybe depending on if it is maybe like a medical provider we're looking for, or like a nurse that we need for certain things, we want a certification, right? We want to make sure that they are certified. So we'll say this in the request for proposal or quotation bid packet in the beginning. We'll mention it in the bidder minimum qualifications that, provider must have certification or be certified through the state. A copy needs to be submitted. So all that would be is, along with that packet you're submitting, then you're also attaching that copy of the certification that is being asked. We mentioned like insurance requirements. as the FYI to vendors, but that's not necessarily needed at the time of bid. So I think that's the other thing I could think of, that sometimes people ask that they think they need it right away, but you don't need it
But
until the start of the contract.
that's a good point. Don't pay for it before you need it, but account for how much it costs, because you don't want to have to increase your insurance and then discover that you're not making enough money off of the contract in order to warrant that additional expense.
Good advice. Thank you. Kimberly, did you have anything to add to the paperwork, what's needed?
Well, so there's lots of paperwork for both the bid and for certification, right? And yeah, it's just a lot of paperwork. Doing business with a government agency, there is a lot of paperwork, and that's really where businesses do have to be organized. It's just a matter of looking, and it's kind of all the same. Literally, if you go to the solicitation opportunities pages that we put in the link in the chat, you can see what the insurance requirements are. You can see what other requirements are, paperwork that will need to be submitted eventually, and just making sure you have all of that. As it relates to certification, it's a different sort of set of paperwork. It's having your lease or your grant deed or mortgage statement for wherever your business is operating. Having the Port of Oakland requires a copy of a contract that's written off of that address. It's having, if you're looking for a small business certification, you'll need your tax returns for 3 years. Yeah, business licenses that are appropriate for your business, things like that. So, yeah.
Well, that paints a clearer picture. Like, I mean, if you want the bids, if you want to break into procurement, you've got to be organized. You've got to go through those vendor packets and start getting familiar with the language and what's necessary. It sounds like once you've done all of that and you've got it all together, you're off to a good start, right? You can just
Exactly.
keep moving along with other agencies, Port,
Exactly.
Art, East Bay Mud, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have a couple more minutes, and I've got just a couple other questions. I was hoping that maybe each of you could share just some real talk questions. So my first one is, what is something you wish more small businesses knew before entering government contracting space?
I would encourage people to sort of prepare, have a look at the documentation that's required, get an understanding about it. The other thing is that there are a lot of organizations out there that help people through the procurement process that are separate from the organizations that you're going to be competing in. And so those are good resources, and they can help you think about it from the perspective of, what do I as a business owner need to do to prepare? So I encourage people to prepare in advance so that it isn't so hard a leap. The other piece I would recommend is start with a small thing, something that's really within the scope of what you do, and pick that out, because the one of the things that you'll be asked for is, what other kinds of experience do you have? Just like if you were interviewing for a job, they're going to ask you, where else have you worked? And if you've worked with a municipality or another government agency, they'll look at that and go, okay, so they have an understanding about the paperwork and the requirements associated with that, and that'll help you get additional contracts in the future. And if you're playing to your strengths, then you're going to have a much better chance of knocking it out of the park and have, any kind of references that come from that job be positive. So definitely encourage both of those approaches as a way to move forward.
So I have a quick question, something that you just mentioned, as about, there are services that help businesses with their procurement contracts.
Yeah.
So that's a resource. What type of business is that, and how would somebody find that resource?
So a couple, Apex NorCal is and I'll put that in the link or in the chat as well. They basically, that's what they do, and they're a nationwide program. Our regional region is north of here, but anyway, they can provide you with, very specific stuff as well as general overviews about what the procurement process generally looks like. You've heard from the three local organizations, and they can give you sort of an overview of it. I've also incorporated in the links there SBDC, which basically is a business advisory group, and they provide free services as well as Apex NorCal. Both of those are free, and SCORE is also in the same kind of arrangement. So there are resources out there. You don't have to go this alone. I mean, it can be the first time you're doing something, it can be really difficult, but it's all intended to be possible, and they can help you figure out a good way to get from here to where you want to be, and understand, the some of the pitfalls, like not costing out your agreement correctly and then not making money off of it, which you can hear me go on and on about that, but I hate it. It's so awful to have people invest so much time and energy and then not make the money that they really should.
Okay, thank you. No, I appreciate that. That's good information. And then just maybe for the county, could you tell us a success story of a small business that got into procurement and they've, seen their bids being accepted? Can you just maybe give us a little bit of good news or a success story to encourage?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, the successful bidders that we see that are small businesses are the ones that are certified with the county's small local emerging business program. And some of the ones that are more successful, they're most successful being a subcontractor. So, and that is also advantageous because they work with the prime bidder, but they could have multiple contracts, right, with the county as a subcontractor. And maybe being a subcontractor for a little amount here, a little amount there, right? That is all like a win for the small business. So just be creative. Like there is, like I mentioned, you don't have to necessarily provide direct services for whatever it is that we're going out to bid. You could provide indirect services to these businesses and, attend some of the bidders conferences we have, network with the bidders that are going to bid as a prime and just say, hey, I'm Ariana and I provide, I don't know, like training, consultant services. I could do this for your staff. Just go out there and network. Another thing that Kimberly mentioned was to request for our current contract. The county has a way to do this through an online form, and I'll drop that form in the chat. But that is also very helpful because if you request a current contract for these services, you could also request the bids. And so you could look through previous bids and see what people answered, what did they submit. You want to see maybe the winning proposal. So I think all that is important and helpful for small businesses.
And I just have thank you so much, Ariana. Just a quick story about one bidder that was successful. We did reach out to a trainer that helped us with how we communicate. And we researched her. She's in Oakland. She came, she did a small presentation for under $3,000. And then she listened to what Ariana had to say. And she then registered to be a small local emerging business. And mind you, her first thing was only for $3,000. And then once she registered to be a small local emerging business, she then was selected to be part of a pool of contractors with our training and education department. And she was recently awarded, you don't know what her name is, but I can say she was recently awarded a contract for an event, and it was almost $20,000. And she is also one of our vendors who will be training different departments throughout the county on resumes and how to speak and leadership. So this is all from something that came from a simple $3,000 procurement. And she probably will wind up over the lifetime of the procurement making over $100,000.
Wow. Yay. That's awesome. That is really encouraging. I love that story. Thank you for sharing that. Because I truly think you know, the businesses are members of our chamber. They are some of the smaller businesses. And so just knowing that there is a path forward, I think is really helpful and encouraging. So thank you for sharing that. Ariana, you said one thing, you said bidders conferences. And you guys also talked about networking with the bidders and whatnot. Where is that information? How does one find out more about attending that?
Yeah, so bidders conferences are for the formal procurements, and for our agency, we list it within the request for proposal or request for quotation document. The majority of our bidders conferences are online. There might be some where it requires maybe a site visit, like if there is some goods or services for the jail, for instance, maybe you do have to attend to do like a site walk. But for the most part, it is online. And then we have the weekly outreach. I'll also drop the link for that. That's very static, so it happens on cadence every Wednesday. And that's not specific to like a request for proposal or quotation. It's just in general about the county, about our certified, small business program. So any general questions that vendors have, it's very sort of like this. You'll meet people from our department. They'll be able to help you navigate through the process and answer your questions.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. And you guys, we are at 1:00. And I don't want to take up anybody's time. We started a little bit late, but you guys have given us an hour of your time to be with us, from our presenters to our attendees. Thank you very much. I think everything that you shared is easy to understand and really gives us a foundation of how to get started. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. We are going to save everything that is in the chat, and we will send out an email to all of our attendees with links and a summary of what was shared here today. So thank you. I want to encourage all of you to, if you haven't signed up for the rest of our workshops this week, please do. Today we have a workshop at 5:30 here in person at the Chamber's office, and it is on cash flow, 5 strategies to a steady cash flow. And if you go to our website, you'll see that we have other workshops throughout the entire week, from how to prevent a cyber attack to AI marketing tips. I believe we're also having a bookkeeping 101. So if you're new to your own bookkeeping, or you need to learn a few things in QuickBooks, we're going to have a experienced expert here. So thank you. Please check out our website for the rest of Small Business Week. Thank you all for being here. Any questions that you might have after this, you can always email me, and we are going to share all of this with you. So thank you all very much. Kim, Des, Ariana, Ms. Dillon, thank you all for being here.
Thanks for organizing this, Emily.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.